Welcome to John Martin Talks, where we battle ignorance and apathy daily. The growing ignorance of just how special this experiment we call the United States of America is, and the apathy that we can't or won't do anything and everything to save her. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we got a great show for you today. I mean, it's not looking too good in Georgia. The devil's gone down to Georgia, and we're going to talk a little bit about that in just a moment. And then we cannot give up. That's kind of a theme of my show, not only today, but it's been a theme of my show for weeks, and it's going to be moving forward. And we're going to talk a little bit about a story about Dr. Ben Carson, and he is not giving up the fight, and I'm going to tell you what that's all about. But before we go any further, I got to talk about, let me back up 1 minute. In case you were trying to tune into the show yesterday, we had a great show. I would strongly encourage you to seek it out. We had some technical difficulties, and we only were able to broadcast live over one particular Facebook network. Hopefully we have that resolved today. I would encourage you to go back and look at our show from yesterday. There's a couple of ways to do it. It is posted up on all the Facebook sites that you normally look at. But also, probably the best way to see it is now up on our YouTube channel. Spell it all the way out, John Martin Talks. I would strongly encourage you to look at it because it talks a lot about what is likely and hopefully to happen today in the Stop the Steal movement, and Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz and others, what's happening January 6th, which is today in Washington, D.C. So check it out, John Martin Talks. YouTube, spell it all the way out. Probably the best way to see our show from yesterday, and I'm a little biased, but it was a good one. All right, before we get any further, I always have to mention our sponsor, Big Daddy Unlimited, and I want to say a special hello to Big Daddy himself, Tony and Sherry with an E, McKnight, and my producer who are in Washington, D.C., literally as we speak. They're going to be covering the rallies today in D.C. and the events up there, and we will do a show on them. I don't know if we can pull it off before the end of the week. Depends on when they get back and what actually happens up there. But we have a lot of people up there. Big Daddy Unlimited is up there in force, and true patriots, and I pray for all of them, including the people that I don't even know, because I know that you're up there standing for America, and I certainly appreciate that. But Big Daddy Unlimited is our sponsor. The way you find them is to look above the show, no matter when or where you're actually watching it. Above the video, you will always see a description of our show. Scroll down on that. Click on our sponsorship link. It will take you to BDU, Big Daddy Unlimited, your Second Amendment headquarters, where you will get all things Second Amendment, from guns, ammunition, tactical gear, even swag, delivered directly to your door at factory direct price and tremendous discounts. Check it out. Our sponsor, Big Daddy Unlimited. Also, we have to mention patriotthreads.org. If you want to be decked out in all American type gear, check out patriotthreads.org. Apparel with a purpose. Remember the JMT promo code, John Martin Talks JMT promo code, for 20% off. Check it out. And of course, another great place to see archives of our show is on our other YouTube channel. Yes, we have two channels. One is John Martin Talks, spell it all the way out. You can watch the show live. Good morning, howdy, how are you guys on YouTube? But you can also check us out on Recoil TV. a YouTube channel called Recoil TV, and they are all about the Second Amendment as well, showing you the latest products, how to use them, issues that have to do with guns and the Second Amendment. And we are certainly honored and privileged to have a channel on that site, John Martin Talks. Check it out. All of our shows are archived there as well. All right, let's get into this Business Insider article about what happened last night in the great state of Georgia. Democrats flip Senate in a devastating blow to Trump and Republicans. As I say, this is a Business Insider article. Let me tell you this, it's not officially over, but it doesn't look very good. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. There just doesn't seem, it looks like Loeffler is definitely going to lose. I'm not saying she is. She has not conceded, and I wouldn't expect her to. They are still counting votes in Georgia. Purdue actually is almost in a statistical tie with Ossoff, and he has a chance to pull this thing out much better, I believe, than Loeffler does. It's still not over, but if I told you that it looked good, I would be lying to you, and I'm never going to do that. Excuse me. The Democratic Party, let's get in this article. Democratic Party won control of the Senate following the projected results of two crucial runoff elections in Georgia held on January 5th. Well, let me tell you, as I said, it's not quite over. It reminds me of a saying I had that people kind of appreciate. I call it the pessimist story. You know, the optimist said, the pessimist said, you know, it can't get any worse than this. And the optimist said, oh, yes, it can. And that's kind of what's happened in Georgia, man. It does not look too good. Now, before we go any deeper, let me just give you the bottom line on what it appears happened in Georgia. I'm not saying there's not cheating, fraud, all that. I know the mail-in ballots, all that stuff is tricky, and they stopped counting votes in some places, and there's suspicion. And I'm not saying it doesn't need to be looked at, investigated, challenged, or whatever. But the bottom line from what I'm seeing so far, and I looked at it pretty close last night and this morning early, the bottom line is Republicans apparently did not turn out, for whatever reason, in a high enough percentage turnout to push those two Republican candidates over the top. So what I'm saying is, despite the potential for fraud and cheating, we could have won this thing if people had turned out to vote. And, kudos to the millions that did. But apparently, I could be proven wrong, but it looks like right now that Republicans did not turn out in sufficient numbers to win this thing. And, there's no excuse for that. You may come up with one, but there's no excuse. I just got to say it like it is. Democrat Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock are projected to win their respective races against incumbent Republican Senators David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler. As I say, it's not over, but it's not looking good. The Senate will now consist, if these results hold up, the Senate, talking about the U.S. Senate, will now consist of 50 Republicans and 48 Democrats. And here's the clincher, 2 independents who caucus with Democrats. One of them, of course, is Bernie Sanders, resulting in a 50-50 split if that happens. Now, that won't happen on every vote, but some of the major ones certainly it will. But Democrats will effectively control the chamber because, God help us if this becomes reality, Vice President-elect Kamala Harris holds the tie-breaking vote. Now, I had my assistant producer, because my main producer is actually in D.C. right now. Good morning, Gabe. Howdy, how are you, man? Hope you're enjoying yourself. Keep your head down. But he asked me this morning about what I thought would happen today in Washington. Of course, there's no way to really predict all of that. Now, I am hoping and praying that something happens that will give this election to the rightful owner of it, and that is Donald Trump and the American people. That's what I'm hoping. I don't know if that's going to happen. My ultimate hope beyond Donald Trump, which is very obvious, is that we get a thorough investigation of this election, even if it does not produce the results we want for Donald Trump. We need to have it to change and make certain that our election is as solid, our election laws and our actual elections are as solid as they can be. Now, it could come down to Vice President Mike Pence. He's in a tough situation. I know people just want to automatically say, oh, this is what he should do. We got to let this play out and see it. I have a lot of faith in Mike Pence. I like him. I'm a huge fan of his. But, he may not be up to the task. I don't know. I mean, certainly no modern vice president has been in the situation that he is in. So we got to see how this goes. And, I don't know how, there's just no way really to predict it, because we are certainly in uncharted, but not unconstitutional waters. Everything that they are doing up there right now, the challenge, let's put it that way, is constitutional. All right, let's get back to this, what happened in Georgia. I got a text from a used-to-be friend of mine. I'll let him remain anonymous, but for some reason, and he's a Bernie supporter, and I'm not criticizing him for that. I'm just kind of, and I got a text from him in the middle of the night. I didn't really see it till this morning, asking me if I'm tired of losing. Now, he's called me everything but a child of God in the last few months, in the last year, basically since Trump won election. And that has estranged us, as I'm sure many of you have experienced similar things. So I thought I would answer him. I started to answer him back. I thought a lot about it this morning, and I thought I would answer him live here on the air, because I think this is something that maybe you can use if people are attacking you, because it's not easy to be a Trump supporter. It's never been easy to be an openly Trump supporter. When I say that, it's easy for me because I love the guy and I feel like I'm in the right. And I'm defending this nation, and I believe in the MAGA agenda and America first. So in that sense, it's been easy. But what's not easy is taking the hits from people, family. I've actually been estranged from some family members because of my support for Trump. And I'm sure many of you have experienced the same thing. I've definitely been defriended on Facebook, and I've been trolled and attacked. And my friend, unfortunately, has basically become a troll out there. I don't know if he's being paid to attack me or not. But as I say, I want to respond to my friend asking me if I'm tired of losing. Well, I know what he's trying to get at. He's trying to get at the fact that it looks like Republicans lost and that Donald Trump is ultimately going to lose to Joe Biden. God help us if that's true. But I thought about this, and, I got 5 grandchildren now. The youngest one is about 3 months old, and the oldest one I just took to one of the greatest private schools in our area, and she just turned 13. And they all call me, the littlest one kind of looks at me. She's not really talking yet, but all the others are talking and look, and they all call me Big Papa, and their eyes get wide and the smiles on their face, and they come running when they see me. I mean, that's pretty good. It doesn't really get a whole lot better than that, no matter what happens in politics. And I'm just speaking for myself. I am surrounded by love. I really am. I got a lot of friends that love me, and I love them. I got family that loves me, and I love them, and I'm a big part of it, and I feel it in my heart, in my head, and in my soul. So I'm exactly, and this is another thing, because I wrote this down because I want to be, up front with you. I'm exactly right now this morning, exactly where I want to be. Now, there's been many times in my life when I couldn't say that. And I'm sure there's many times when you couldn't. But to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I am exactly where I want to be, doing exactly what I want to do. How many people can really say that? And heck, I'm going fishing this weekend, Lord willing, and the weather is right. So And I'm born in the United States of America. I'm an American citizen in the land of the free and the home of the brave, and the greatest experiment that humankind has ever put forward. And I am honored and blessed to be here, born in the USA. And here's something that a lot of us don't really think about that often. We'll say it sometime, but we don't really think about it in this context. I am truly a blessed man. I'm truly a blessed person. I'm not saying everything is perfect in my life, because I'm human and I'll fall short of the glory more often than not. There's a book out there that pretty much guarantees that we're going to do. Maybe we need to read that. But what I mean by that, truly blessed man, you know what's really a blessing beyond all the things I just listed? Is that I realize that I'm a blessed man. I realize how good I have it. I realize that my life hasn't always been like that, mostly because of my own bad choices, and I've talked about that before. But I am truly blessed, and I realize that I am, and I'm very grateful. If I get teared up about it, they're tears of joy and gratitude, because I've had tears of sorrow many, many times, most of it self-inflicted. And I know where I've been. I know where I'm at. And I hopefully know where I'm going. And it is a glorious feeling. I am concerned, all of this aside, I'm very blessed, but I'm very concerned for my country. I don't apologize for that. I'm not saying that I'm 100% right. I can only tell you what I believe and what I see happening. Excuse me, I get a little choked up. But I am very concerned for my country. I'm not bitter about what's happening in Georgia. I'm not bitter about what's potentially going to happen today in Washington and whether or not President Trump is ultimately successful at this. I'm not a bitter person. I can understand why you would be. I am angry, but I try to use, I'm sorry about that. I try to use my anger as a motivation. Because living in anger and resentment is not a healthy place for anyone to be, and definitely not for me. But I am concerned about my country. I am still willing and able to fight. Now, I'm not much, I don't know, I don't have any choice but to stand my ground these days, because I can't run very fast anymore. So, whether or not I'm ready to be an active soldier is probably past my time. But as long as I'm blessed to have this microphone, and I thank the people that are listening and sharing the most, but certainly my sponsors like Big Daddy Unlimited and PatriotThreads.org, and we got a few more coming on board in the next couple of weeks here, more about that later. But, I am still willing to fight. And I tell you all the time, we have to man the political ramparts. We still, even though it looks like we may go down in Georgia, the devil may win in Georgia. Like the song says. Of course, he didn't win in that particular Charlie Daniels song, and maybe he won't yet. Let's keep the hope alive, man. But we got to man the political ramparts, so we're going to have to man the real ones again, and that price has been paid. It looks like we're on the verge of outright socialism in this nation. And as I've told you many times, you can vote your way into socialism, which is what it seems like is happening in Georgia. But you always got to fight your way out. Look at what happens in Venezuela. I'm praying again for the people in D.C., not only our leaders, but the great patriots that are there today. Believe me, I am there with you in spirit. It is today a defining moment for not only our country, but as I said pretty explicitly yesterday, as I say, if you didn't catch the show, go to our YouTube channel, John Martin Talks. And I went in depth about what I think about what could or should happen today in D.C. Check it out, John Martin Talks YouTube. But it's a defining moment for the GOP. And we need this vote to happen today, regardless of the outcome of it, because we need to know who our friends are. And I've said to them, and Democrats, we know where we are with them. They're just BS crazy, man. I mean, when you can't say mother, father, daughter, brother in the House chamber, and you end prayers with a woman when amen has nothing to do with men, then they can't get a lot crazier than that. Really. Now, they're going to do some crazy things if they have the power. As I say, I trust Pelosi. I trust Chuck Schumer. I trust that they're going to do exactly what they say and more if they get ultimate power. In this case, Chuck Schumer becomes the majority leader. God help us if that happens. I don't necessarily trust the Republicans to do the right thing today. I don't necessarily trust Mike Pence to do the right thing today. I'm hopeful that he will. It's going to take a lot of courage on his part, and he is in a tough situation. So I pray for Mike Pence, man. I pray that he has strength. But this is a defining moment for the GOP and our country. And I want every single member of Congress to vote their conscience. If you can look me in the eye and tell me, and I talked about this about Rick Scott yesterday, so check it out. I think I did a good job on that. But I would ask you to ask your senators if they can look you in the eye and say that they honestly believe that there was no fraud in this election, if they honestly believe that Donald Trump would get 10 million more votes on Election Day than he did in 2016 and still lose, get the most votes in the history of any sitting president and still lose. If you believe that, and you on top of that believe that Joe Biden, Puxatawny Joe, Bunker Joe, that guy was the greatest candidate in the history of the world and got more votes than Barack Obama did 2 times, even in inner city black neighborhoods, got people to turn out to vote for him that did not vote, even though they were eligible to, for Barack Obama. If you honestly believe all that, well, we may could debate it, but if you honestly believe that, then vote your dadgum conscience. If you don't believe any of that and you believe this election was fraud and stolen, then vote that conscience as well. We need to know where you stand. And then we're going to make our decisions. And some of us may get mad, take our toys, and go home. And some of us may stand and fight. That is me. That is me, because I'm reminded of one of my favorite movies, and they won't allow me to play movie clips. When I first started the show, I started playing movie clips, and because I'm a big movie buff. But now, because of copyright stuff, and now that I'm on nationwide and got a bigger audience, I can't do that anymore. I miss it. But one of my favorite movies, and I just watched it over Christmas again, is the Outlaw Josie Wales Clint Eastwood movie. And there's so many great scenes and lines in that movie. One of the greatest. If you hadn't seen it, you need to see it. But he's talking about how when you're facing overwhelming enemy, overwhelming odds, and I'm going to paraphrase it a bit, but he said if you're giving up hope, if you think you're going to lose, talking about this fight, he said you got to get plumb mad dog mean. I don't know if you've seen that scene. He says, because if you give up, you neither live nor win. And I think that is where we are right now. We are facing overwhelming odds, and we got to get plumb mad dog mean. And we got to fight no matter what we have. Because if we give up, if we just go home, which, hey, I could easily do that. I don't actually, now my ego probably needs this show. I really enjoy doing the show. I think we're making a difference here. So I'm not saying I'm about to stop this, but I could ride off into the sunset. Certainly Donald Trump could, no matter what happened, and has certainly earned that right. I don't think he will, do you? Regardless of what happens, let's face the reality. Joe Biden is basically 2 weeks away from being the next president of the United States of America. God help us if that's true. But Donald Trump said the other day in his Georgia rally, one of the things I love the most about it, he told Kemp, the governor of Georgia, and the Secretary of State, what's his name, Raffins, something another. Anyway, he told him, hey, I'll be back here in a year and a half. Excuse me, got a little frog in my throat. He said, I'll be back here, and probably from screaming at the TV last night. He said, I'll be back here in Georgia in a year and a half, campaigning against you. And I trust Donald Trump. No matter what happens, I believe he will be in Georgia in a year and a half campaigning against those guys when he could easily just live and has earned every right to just live and enjoy his family and everything else. So I could do that. I could do the same thing. I could go back. I mean, my wife's got a good business. I help her a little in it, that kind of thing. I'm very blessed that, my bills are paid and my house paid off, all that kind of stuff. I could just ride off and, gotta stop, like what does Jimmy Buffett say, gotta stop wishing, got to go fishing. I could just do that. And I'm going to do that as far as going fishing this weekend, Lord willing. But I just can't do that with a clear conscience because of all the blessings that I've been given. See, and I'm only talking about me. If you don't feel this way, and I'm not trying to put pressure on you, I've been very honest and upfront with you guys, you know, that have listened to the show for a long time. If you're new to the show, first of all, howdy, how are you? Glad to have you. Where you been? As my buddy from Patriot Threads, remember the promo code JMT, patriotthreads.org, JMT, 20% off. But as he says, the truth starts now. So I welcome you to the show. But I've been very upfront and honest with you guys, man. There was a time in my life when I was in some really dark places. I seemed hopeless, and I was a drug addict. And with a lot of help and mostly the grace of God and a little bit of work and honesty on my part, I celebrated 32. I'm almost 33 coming up in March, Lord willing. I get there, 33 years clean and sober. Now, I don't say that to brag about it. I say that to explain this. I personally feel like I have a debt to pay, a tremendous debt, not only for all the crazy stuff I did, and I've made amends to people I've directly harmed and stuff like that, but I've been so blessed in this life, my family, my growing up, the way I was raised. I mean, I went against all of that stuff, and it didn't work out too well for me. But I feel like I have a tremendous debt to pay society, but I don't feel burdened by that because my understanding of my belief system is, and I'm so grateful for this, I believe I have a God that lets me make payments on my debt. And one of the reasons I do the show is making a payment on that debt. I don't know that I'll ever get it paid off. Once I do, maybe there won't be any reason for me to still be here. So I'm eager to make payments on that debt. And one of my payments on that debt is I ain't going home. I'm not giving up. I'm not jumping back in the pot. President Trump has shown me that I thought I was out the pot all along. But I realize now through Donald Trump's presidency that I was in that boiling pot, just simmering away like nothing, and was getting my goose or my frog legs cooked. I've jumped out, and I'm not jumping back in. It doesn't matter what happens with Donald Trump. It doesn't matter what happens ultimately here in Georgia. Because if this America First movement, and I say this, and some people don't like it when I say it, but I got to be true to myself and true to you. If this movement, if this MAGA agenda movement was only about one man, as great as that man is, Donald Trump, then it was doomed to failure from the start. We have grown fat and happy and slumbering in our hammocks, so to speak, really since World War II and maybe even before that. And the country is not going to be saved. Our republic, if we can keep it, is not, like Ben Franklin said, is not going to be saved by any one person, any one president, any one senator, as great as they may be. It has always been up to rugged individualists, the American patriot, to save the day. That hasn't changed. We've kind of forgotten that. That's why I want you to be educated, motivated, and activated and help other people. That's why I battle ignorance and apathy on a daily basis here, because we need to understand that the country has always been about the individual citizen and their willingness to serve this nation, in some cases give their life for it. We talk about that a lot of times, but I don't think really understand that. A friend of mine reminded me of this yesterday. George Washington lost every dadgum thing he had, burned his own house down. I'm not advocating that you do that. We're not at that point yet. We're moving in that direction. But we need to man the political ramparts. We cannot give up. All right, I'm going to talk now. So that's kind of how I feel. Let me check my time. Doing pretty good on time. I want to talk about someone who obviously is not giving up. And that is somebody that I am a huge fan of. And that is Dr. Ben Carson. You know, I originally, before Donald Trump came down that escalator and made it pretty clear that he was actually going to run, I was putting myself behind Ben Carson because I think he is one of the most outstanding people this country has ever produced, period. I mean, I'd put him up there with many, many people. Obviously, I've always been a big fan of Donald Trump, and I wasn't sure he was serious about running when he first came down that escalator. But once I figured out that he was absolutely serious, you can ask friends of mine, I jumped on board in a big way, and I was all Trump from the day I made that decision. My wife actually got there before I did, so I got to give her credit as well. But this is a Breitbart article. Ben Carson charges 1776 commission members to fight coordinated attack on our history. And make no mistake, that's right there is a fact. There is a coordinated attack against our history and against our country. Now, I'm not saying that everyone who voted for those crazy Democrats, think about the Democrats, man, the worst possible candidate. This is what baffles me. I got to back up a minute. Starting with Joe Biden. Joe Biden is the worst candidate in the history of president. I mean, he was a lousy candidate the other times he ran. He was a lousy candidate in 2020 until they got desperate and figured that Bernie was going to win if they didn't all drop out and get behind Biden. And let me just tell you, that Joe Biden ran the worst campaign in the history of the nation and got the most votes in the history of the nation. And you tell me that there's not some shenanigans in that? But Joe Biden was a terrible candidate. He's still a terrible candidate, and he's probably going to be a lousy president. And hopefully he won't get there. But these two people that ran for office on the Democratic ticket in Georgia are god awful. And I'm not just saying that because of their politics. This John Ossoff guy, I mean, what has he ever done? Ever done? I mean, I can't find anything in his record that remotely would prepare him or qualify him to be a U.S. Senator. Now, the people apparently are voting for him, and if he gets there, he gets there. But this Warnock fella, I mean, even his own wife said he was phony and a fake and was, committed domestic violence against her. Not me. She said that on TV. All you got to do is, the news media won't hardly report it. Maybe we'll actually play that video. It may not matter now, I suppose. But Tucker Carlson, go look at him. He played it quite a bit in the last month. She literally called her husband a phony, a fake, and a great actor, and that he's full of whatever and acting, and she's in tears and said that he ran over her with the car. Yet he got the most votes of anybody yesterday. So, maybe it is too late. I hope not. All right, let's get into this article, as I'm going to repeat the title because I got a little sidetracked there. My psychic sidekick, Billy Bob Bass, tells me to get it back on track, boy. He's my psychic sidekick. Yeah, make fishing great again. I am the fish whisperer, the old salty dog. He's got a Twitter handle, by the way. It's at Billy Bob Bass 1, and mine is at John Martin Talks. We're trying to get on every social media platform there is, and we are not abandoning Facebook. They may cancel us. Who knows? I hope, algorithm, you don't. And we're going to stay on YouTube. We're not giving up the public square. Now, we're going to expand the public square, but we're not giving it up. So don't expect us to pack our bags and go home. But here's the article. Ben Carson charges 1776 commission members to fight coordinated attack on our history, and this is Breitbart. Housing and Urban Development, which is HUD, Secretary Ben Carson, spoke at the opening meeting for President Donald Trump's appointed 1776 commission on Tuesday, urging members to work together to restore the importance of America's heritage in education. Well, God's will, I hope that, that he's successful at this. Because Lord knows we need to take our education system back. We've let it go. What was that saying we had when Obama was president? Take our country back, like we need to take it from Obama. And I said at the time, I had a radio show at that time, I said, we don't need to take this country back from Obama. We need to take it back from our own ignorance and apathy, because it is apathy that is letting these people win. Cheating aside, I'm not disputing any of that. But if you look at the numbers of people who simply don't even register to vote, let alone what happened in Georgia yesterday when we didn't have basically 100% turnout. We had less turnout percentage-wise than we did in the general election. And that's why we lost. No matter what you want to say about the cheating, ultimately we could have won, and maybe we still will. But I want to talk a minute here. I'm kind of on this personal tangent, and so we'll keep going with that. I hear people talk about like God's will. And I'm not saying I'm an expert in God's will. I'm not a theologian. I don't claim to be. I can only talk about my own experience, my own understanding. And what did everybody tell you? That you need a personal relationship with God, right? People tell you that all the time. And so all I can talk about with any authority is my own personal relationship. And people are always saying, well, it's God's will that Donald Trump win this thing and all that. So would that mean that if he loses, it's God's will? I can only look at it from my perspective. Let me tell you what I know about God's will. Very, very little. Now, what I do know, and this is what I had to figure out through a lot of pain, both physical, mental, and spiritual, is that it didn't really matter what God's will for me was, as long as I was doing what I knew was not his will. How am I possibly going to get to what God's will is for me if I knowingly do things that are against his will? And I'm just talking about me. I did it on a daily basis. It got to the point in my life where that's all I did was my own will. I remember very vividly the last day that I used drugs, almost 33 years ago. I was at the point in my life that every single thing I did, I knew for a fact was wrong. I remember taking the last little bit of money that my dad had in this hiding place, and he knew I was taking it. I kind of borrow it, put it back and all that. Like I think he don't know. He just wanted to see how far I would go. God, I love and miss that man. I try to, that's another thing. The best thing you can do for people who've gone on is to live your life the way they would want you to. That, to me, is another thing that I've learned, because I can't bring them back. But I remember taking the last like $300. I'm just telling you the truth, from my dad's little kitty there. And I was literally, my hand was trembling and I was crying like a baby, because I knew that what I was doing, every fabric of my being knew that what I was doing was wrong. I could not do it. That's what powerless, by the way, means to me. It means knowing everything I'm doing is wrong and I can't stop myself. Through God's grace and the help of other people and a little bit of work on my part, I haven't had to feel that way in a long, long time. So to answer my friend, am I tired of losing? I haven't lost in a long time. It doesn't matter what happens in politics. I can only do my part. However big God lets me be, or however small, I can just responsible for doing the best that I can on a daily basis. I still fall short of that on a daily basis. But to conclude this thing about God's will, what I had to learn was that I needed to eliminate all the things in my life that I knew for a fact were not his will. And since I've been able to do that, more or less, imperfect as I am, it really hasn't mattered. My life has been so much better and different that, why do I need to know what God's will for me is, get rid of what I know is not, and live? That's been mine. But let's get on with this article. I didn't mean to get in too much of a tangent. Let me check my time. Doing okay. This is what Dr. Carson said in opening up this commission that Donald Trump did with executive order. So I realize it could go away, and I'm going to discuss that in a moment. But Dr. Carson said, today, as America faces new attempts to redefine the date of our founding, Our national story is being rewritten and denigrated with indefinably flawed descriptions. No question about that. What it reminds me of, ladies and gentlemen, is something that George Orwell said. Remember, he said that, basically, and I'm paraphrasing here, but Orwell said that the more society drifts away from the truth, the more they will resent those that speak it. The more they will resent those that speak it. Does that not kind of define what's happening to Trump supporters? What's happening to the president himself? The more society drifts from the truth, according to Mr. Orwell, the more they will hate those that speak it. But I would say you need to speak it nonetheless, and I'm blessed to be here, and I'm going to continue to do so. Carson charged the members with the task of the task force of preserving American history at a moment when leftists are trying to tear it apart with revisionist education. He went on to say, every sin, and this, I really love this paragraph here. Every sin from our past is highlighted, and every triumph is buried. He's absolutely right. It's like we're trying to do an inventory of our country and just showing the inventory of all the things we've done bad. And our country is not perfect by any stretch. It's the greatest experiment that mankind, humankind, womankind, amen, a woman, however you want to say it, mother, brother, sister, I'm going to say it. I might call Nancy something. Do we need to refer to her as Madam Speaker anymore? What do we just call, hey, that gal from, or you can't even say gal. I don't know how, it's just crazy, man. But every sin from our past, according to Dr. Carson, is highlighted and every triumph is buried. He's spot on there. This historical revisionism amounts, these are Dr. Carson's words, this historical revisionism amounts to nothing more than a coordinated attack on our history, our heroes, and our very inheritance. Amen. He is absolutely right. And when I was reading these words this morning, I thought about Frederick Douglass. I am a huge fan of our great hero, Frederick Douglass. If you don't know who he is, get yourself educated, because you really need to know who Frederick Douglass was. He was a black man who was a Republican during the Civil War. He lived up in New York. He actually met with Abraham Lincoln, and he was a patriot extraordinaire. And think about this. In all this craziness with burning and tearing down statues and everything else, these idiots tore down Frederick Douglass, who was a champion for black America, who was one of the greatest American patriots of any color, let alone the fact that he was black, who was adamantly opposed to slavery and was one of the leading abolitionists of his time. Yet his statue was torn down. Now you may ask why. I think it's two reasons. One of it is just pure ignorance, stupidity. People don't know. If you're wondering what the difference between ignorance and stupid is, let me just tell you real quick. The best way I can put it, if you don't know how to read, you're ignorant because you just don't know how. I'm not saying you're a bad person. If you're ignorant in that particular field. If you don't care, then you're stupid. I mean, that's about the best way I could put it. But Frederick Douglass' statue was torn down by ignorant and stupid people that didn't know what he was doing. But it was also torn down by people who knew exactly what they were doing, because they don't want black Americans, which looks like was the big difference in the voting yesterday in Georgia. Haven't looked at detail of the results totally, but it appears that way. But black Americans, the left does not want black America to be proud of anything in the United States of America. And that's pretty obvious when not only did they tear down Frederick Douglass statue in the name of Black Lives Matter, which is a communist organization. That's not my words. It's the truth. It's their own words. Remember, they also desecrated the Black Soldiers Memorial in Philadelphia, the ones at that movie, what was the name of that movie? I can't think of it at the moment right now. But about these black soldiers that fought in the Civil War for the side of the Union that actually turned the tide in some cases. And so they tore that down. And the reason is because they don't want black Americans to be proud of anything in this country. And black Americans have a tremendous amount of things to be proud of. Are we a perfect nation? No. Never have, never will be. You know why? Because we are basically a nation of people. And people always fall short of the glory. It's just the way it is. But if you know your history, the good, the bad, and the ugly of it, there is so much more to be proud of than to be ashamed of in this country. And I think that's what Dr. Carson is referring to. Members of the commission were sworn in and met in person on the phone Tuesday afternoon to speak about their mission to restore America's heritage in education. The commission meeting was led by Matthew Spalding, the vice president for Hillsdale College operations in D.C. If you're not familiar with Hillsdale College, you need to get so, and I'll tell you about that in a minute, who reminded the commission of their charge from the president's executive order. Let me tell you, Hillsdale College, man, and I'm not being paid to say this. I should be. I know they sponsor some people. So Hillsdale, if you're listening, I will certainly accept your sponsorship here, but I'm going to give you a free plug. If you're interested, now they have a campus out in California, but they're online a lot, and they offer, at least they used to, and I'm pretty sure they still do, a free course in the Constitution. You have to sign up for it and all of that, and it's all done online. There's not like you're going to get a pass-fail, I don't think. I took the course. I already knew a lot about it, but I took the course. I highly recommend it. I'm assuming they still offer it. Check it out. Of course, you could just listen to old JMT here and Billy Bob, my psychic sidekick, Twitter handle, at Billy Bob Bass 1. Mine is at John Martin Talks. Because, I'm educated, and I'm a big-time believer in the U.S. Constitution. The reason, ladies and gentlemen, by the way, that we can't seem to agree on anything, and to the sense that we're divided, of course, there are people like Joe Biden, God help us if he becomes president, that are intentionally trying to divide us, because that's what the Democratic Party does. They divide people into groups, and they get them all ginned up and mad as heck and hating, and then they rejoin me together behind a common boogeyman. In this case, it's been Donald Trump. That's their modus operandi. The new mantra of the Democratic Party, I hadn't said this in a while, but if I say it, it bears repeating, is America sucks. It's always sucked. This is why they tear down statues of people like Frederick Douglass. America sucks. It's always sucked. It sucks for some more than others. And if you vote for the Democrats, they're going to make it suck for everybody equally. That is exactly what is going to happen if they get control of everything. But you could listen to JMT, because I am an ardent supporter of the Constitution. Getting back to what I was about to say, the reason why we can't seem to agree on anything is we have forgotten as a nation, which I think this 1776 Commission is really about. We have forgotten what we used to agree on, period, no matter what your politics. And that was, we were a republic under a U.S. Constitution, and that the purpose of the Constitution was not to empower a big federal government, but the opposite, to protect the people and their God-given inalienable rights from the overreach of a big federal or monarchy government. That's what it was about. It was about empowering the people, not government. If you don't understand that, then you don't really understand the basis of the Constitution and our founding principles. Check my time again here. The goal of the commission, Spalding, this is the guy from let me get that right again, from Hillsdale College. I want to make sure I give them credit. The goal of the commission, Spalding noted, is to revisit the importance of the founding documents of the American Republic and restore a common appreciation for the principles enshrined in them. Amen. The question is, because Biden's going to do away with this commission, I think. But is it too late? If what they're trying to do, is it too late? Have we lost a generation too much to our corrupt educational system? Is it too late? My answer to that is it can't be. It can't be too late. It cannot be. I'm not saying it really isn't, but it can't be. Think about that. What are we saying if it's too late? Are we just saying it's over? The great American experiment was over, and we're just going to sit back in our bunkers and enjoy whatever life we have left? I told you at the top that one of the great blessings I have is 5 grandchildren that love me. One of the prayers I have is, Lord, I just pray that you give me the wisdom and the health to see these kids grow up. That's all I really want. There's other things that I want, but the only thing I really need is that. And I don't know that I'm going to get that. Nobody knows. Nobody is promised tomorrow. That's why you got to live your life the best you can today, because ain't none of us getting out of here alive. But I just hope and pray sincerely that I get to see these kids grow up. And my job is not to just sit back, but to make every choice I can on a daily basis that will help me get there. That is the will where I need to exercise my will. I got to leave the rest up to God, but I know I can do things, make lifestyle changes. I can enjoy every moment that I have with them no matter what. I can do all of that. The question is, will I? I try to on a daily basis. But is it too late to educate and motivate and activate people? And if we have to eliminate by voting these rascals out of office that are going to have that defining moment today in D.C., it can't be for me, because I don't want to believe that. I'm not going to believe that. Dr. Carol Swain is a member of this. If you don't know anything about her, man, you really ought to check her out. You talk about a great patriot in the mold of a Frederick Douglass. Dr. Carol, so it's people like her that give me a tremendous amount of hope. You really need to check her out. Dr. Carol M. Swain, a retired professor of political science and law at Vanderbilt University, she said, listen to what she's saying here. She says, I believe we can become a much greater nation. We're moving in the wrong direction, and the way back starts with those founding documents. Amen. Exactly. She's absolutely right. We've got to return to the Constitution. It is the solution of our problems. To me, and it's in the way of these progressives that want to destroy the country. That's why they want to get rid of it, tear it to shreds, or in worst case, I think, actually ignore it. But it's exactly what she's saying. I got to read that one more time. We're almost out of time. I guess we pretty much are out of time. Anyway, we're pretty much out of time. Let me just tell you that we have to battle ignorance and apathy daily. You have my commitment. It is the challenge of our time not to give up. I promise you that I won't, as long as I have breath in this microphone before me. I hope you've enjoyed the show as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. Please go directly to John Martin Talks Facebook page, like it and share it with others. I'll pray for your family. Let's all pray for our nation, the president, and all of those great patriots in D.C. today, because they certainly have earned that right. But above all else, like I say each and every day, from my heart, from my family to yours, have a blessed day.